This is the Page Publishing Book Club. And I'm Alice Stockton Rossini, your host. Rob Barrett is my engineer. And thanks for stopping by or downloading us or however you got here. We are off to the land of inspiration and information that will hopefully bring you one step closer to writing that book that you've been writing in your head for how long now? Come on, how long? As you well know, people write for all kinds of reasons. And in Rosario Spicoli's case, he was dealing with grief and wound up taking his imagination to a whole new level. And I'm talking a whole new level with his book entitled Carl, about a special needs child, not your average special needs child. But why don't you tell us, Rosario?
Carl was born with just a head. It's kind of a short story, and what I would like to do is I'd like to read the book. It takes about 1 minute and 30 seconds to read through, and it just shows how he's kind of bullied at the beginning of the story, and he just wishes that he could be anything but a head towards the end.
He's just a head.
Just a head, yeah.
Just a head. What's the point of this?
If the message to the kids is, at the very end of the story, he wishes that he could be anything but a head, and the next morning he wakes up and he's a big toe with early onset toe fungus, warts and moles and black hairs, and it's pretty nasty. And then the moral of the story, kids, is to quit while you're ahead. That's the whole story. So the message is just to, for kids to just, be happy with what they are and,
quit while you're ahead.
What you got, Yeah, quit while you're ahead.
But if you read me the whole thing, why should I go buy the book?
It would make for great radio, I thought.
Well, go for it, man. Go ahead.
Okay, you want me to read it?
Do it.
Okay, here we go.
Okay.
Are you ready?
I am so ready.
Okay, once upon a long time ago, and really, really far away, there lived a young boy named Carl. He was a regular kid, except that he was a special needs child as he was born with only a head. He loved to play with other children and do all the normal things that kids do. One day, the kids asked him to play baseball, and he was excited to join in the fun. When he found out the kids wanted to use him for second base, it wasn't all that fun anymore. But then, the next day, the kids invited him to play soccer, and he thought that would be great fun because he thought he would play goalie. Instead, they used Carl as the ball. So, feeling down, he rolled home post-haste. He ate his dinner and rolled into bed. The next day, his mother asked him to go to the store and get 20 pounds of potatoes. Carl asked, "What am I going to carry them home in?" His mother replied, "Use your hat." After coming home with the potatoes, Carl found out that a new Mexican family was moving in next door, the Rodriguez family. Now, the Rodriguez family also had a special needs child, a young girl about Carl's age who was born without legs. Her name was Consuela, and she got around using a mechanic's creeper and boxing gloves. Consuela also had a pet cow, also born without legs, named Ground Beef. Carl and Consuela played together and had fun. He enjoyed his time with Consuela, but still felt depressed. So he rolled home and into bed and wished that he could be anything but a head, and fell fast asleep. When he woke up in the morning, he realized he had turned into a big toe with early onset toenail fungus, black hairs, warts, moles, and a tattoo of a head. And kids, the moral of this story is to quit while you're ahead. And that's the end.
You think parents are going to sign up for this?
I've been selling books.
Yeah?
So, okay, yeah, I was going to say, what do you think?
I think it's funny. I think it's really funny. Now, I'm the kind of parent that would I would have no problem with a book like this. But I also know parents who would be like, oh, my God, that's awful. Special needs. It's making fun of special needs, Have you gotten any backlash?
I mean, he's worse. He's worse off than any other special needs kid I know of.
Yeah. All right.
It was kind of sad. So I've been living with my girlfriend for the past 8 years, and she passed away. So I was kind of feeling depressed, and I saw something. I can't remember where it was, but they were like, if you get into that depressed mode, try and get out of it. Get active, set goals for yourself. And I always wanted to write something, so I just thought, well, you know what? I'm going to do it. So,
all right.
Luckily, Page Publishing decided to go with it. I feel extremely lucky in getting published by them. And I actually did a book signing in the summer. I sold 14 books and 2 T-shirts, which was pretty good.
Okay.
Okay, I just wanted to say, I give a shout out to Page Publishing. I appreciate them giving me an opportunity.
You had a good experience with Paige.
Oh, very good. I, recommend it to anybody that, is starting out or, wants to at least try, So it's a good place to start.
All right, Rosario, you will not quit, right? Not while you're ahead. And he's got more books on the way, and we are looking forward to them. Have you ever heard of the word shoulding? According to psychologists, it's telling yourself you have to do something different from what you're doing. Roberta Brown wrote a book all about it. It's called The Shoulding, a story of resilience and hope. Hey, Roberta.
Because I was tired of sitting on our family secrets. First of all, I wrote the book to help other people because I couldn't be the only one that felt this way, that things had happened this way. And it wasn't a particularly cathartic book to write until I started hearing from people about how did you know my story? This is exactly how I feel. I can't believe someone knows what they know. I guess I feel like we're only as sick as our secrets. And it took me years to put all the puzzle pieces together, how abuse affected my life. There's so many different levels of abuse that sometimes you don't recognize it as abuse. Everybody knows about physical abuse and emotional abuse, but there's a lot of subtleties that go in between all those things. Put downs, and there's backhanded compliments, and there's sort of this insidiousness of danger and not being safe.
It says that each chapter takes the reader through the events of this series of dysfunctional relationships and how that impacted you.
Well, I didn't have a really good example of healthy relationships. My parents were terribly unhealthy towards each other, and they certainly weren't very good parents. They were abusive mentally, physically, and emotionally. Without giving away the big aha moment, I figured it all out when I was 51. It was like a lightning bolt hit me that, oh my God, this is why it happened. And that's when I realized I had to write the book. It had become a real turning point for me. And I had spent 31 years in therapy trying to figure out why I was picking the wrong relationships, the wrong people, the wrong men in my life, and ending up in terribly dysfunctional relationships and really unhappy. So
this experience left you with agoraphobia, anxiety, obsessive compulsive disorder, post-traumatic stress disorder, and you were a mess.
Yes.
And you didn't know why.
I really didn't. I mean, I really spent a lot of time digging in, trying to figure it all out. So I realized I had to erase certain people. I had to get all the dysfunction out of my life. So I had to let my sister go. I haven't spoken to her in 4 years. And it's really been the healthiest thing I could do. Both my parents have passed. So the interesting thing was I continued to have a relationship with them. My dad tried to kill me when I was 16. And I sort of put that somewhere in the back of the recesses of my brain. It was not healthy. And what I realized was I was raised by two narcissists and a narcissistic sister, and I wasn't any of those things. So it was really difficult to try to figure it all out. It was the most bizarre thing because I was always the odd man out. And they always told me it was because I was sick. So I had finally figured out it wasn't me. It was all this dysfunction.
So are you out talking about this?
I am. Well, I've done book signings, and I co-authored another book with 31 other women, all of us survivors of abuse, different kinds of abuse. It's a movement that has got to start because, as I said, we're only as sick as our secrets. And we really have to speak up and help others be able to speak up.
So you have found a whole new purpose in your life.
Absolutely.
All right, Roberta. Born and raised in Gravesend, Brooklyn, the so-called bedroom of the mafia, former cop Vincent Terra has a story with all the sex appeal of sex, drugs, prostitutes, and alcohol, along with the reality of getting caught up in a world that turned against him. Vincent, tell us about your book, November Shadows.
The story that relates to me in what I call, the dog and pony show of do what I say and not what I do. I was prosecuted for something that I didn't do. They prosecuted me for something that they should have been prosecuted for, called entrapment. I had arrested a drug dealer, and this drug dealer subsequently had approached me one day, and unbeknownst to me, he was taking a shot to entrap me to negate his charges, and he had told me he had this voluminous amount of corruption material going from judges, lawyers, ADAs, and drug lords that he was going to give up, and all this stuff. And he asked me if that in itself would help his case, and I said, I'm sure that'll be taken into consideration. And at that particular time, you have to understand the climate of the times in the 70s with that Patrolman Bill Phillips and the Knapp Commission and Serpico and all those things going on, and even to the highest levels in the book, which I allude to, with Richard Nixon coming out and to say that I am not a crook. The public sentiment was one of non-belief in law enforcement. So let the New York Times be the bearer of this news, and that was the liaison that I was going to drop it into. But I didn't want to divulge it to anyone because basically it all boiled down to who can you trust.
So you're revealing this information for the first time in your book.
That's correct.
So instead of giving it to the New York Times, you just wrote it.
I never had the opportunity because I was preempted by an orchestrated entrapment when in turn I thought I was getting a voluminous package of everything, and instead he threw in marked money into my car, ran the other way, and then I was encircled by these investigators, hustled off, and at that particular point, I said to myself, you know what? I'm going to not talk, and you know what? The truth will come to fruition at the end, but it's not that way in life.
Did you go to jail?
4 months. I got a year's sentence, and I did 4 months in Rikers Island. The public was also screwed because they took a predator and put him back on the street, selling drugs, ruining lives, ruining families, and took someone, who could have helped society and put many others in jail, but they did.
So is this book an attempt to clear your name? Do you feel like justice was ever served?
Justice won't be served by this. I think selfishly, this book, if it doesn't make a penny, it's a moot point. But the high point is the fact that this book is a catharsis for me. So, the bottom line, no, I won't get justice. But, I'll get what I said. The truth delayed is not the truth denied.
All right, Vincent. And you were only 25 when it happened. I really hope this book helps move you forward. Real quick, before we go to a break, speaking of juicy, sexy, and spicy, they're just some of the words that describe Abby DeVera's book called Against Expectations. Abby.
Absolutely. I'm so excited. This is my spicy, erotic romance. There's definitely a romantic storyline through it, so it's not just all erotic, for sure.
Is there any truth to this?
I wouldn't say truth, but I did have a dream one night years ago when I was living in San Francisco. I woke up. I knew the names of the characters. I knew the title of the book, and I had dreamt specific scenes in the book and knew exactly what transpired before each and after every scene. So I wrote it that one day, the first draft, and literally 50 drafts later, which was a heart attack, it was accepted to Page Publishing. So it's exciting. It is my second book. My first book is called Prozac and Exotica and a Tattoo Parlor. And don't let the title deceive you. It is very much for the vanilla reader. It's an urban fairy tale. I like to take taboo topics and shake up the humanity in everyone as, they can connect with it, connect with the topic.
Well, I love the way your blurb starts. What would you do if your spouse offered you the gift of an open marriage?
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's not a biography, but I will say, after I read this, there were circumstances and moments and people that I met that I had written in the book that sort of illuminated in true life. So it's been sort of an amazing experience writing this book and then sort of experiencing similar scenes in my true life after it. So it's not a biography, but it definitely has resonated with me in everyday life. It is about a open marriage gone awry, but within the story, it is about living your authentic self, your authentic life, and two women, one who knows her self-worth and one who doesn't. So it's amazing how people will connect with these characters in different ways. And it's spicy, too, of course.
Spicy.
Nice little love story.
We love spicy. Yes. I get the feeling you've written your whole life.
I do. I write every day when I'm talking to people. I connect with stories. I love telling stories. I have a background in production, and I've developed some web series with great storylines, great concepts. I just love telling stories. And
you work in production now?
I do. I'm in the middle of Tulsa, Oklahoma right now. So the production jobs are pretty sporadic, but I am going to be going to Austin, Texas in June to produce this amazing short film.
So the next question is, if you want to get royalties on this book, you have to get it out there and you have to tell people it's out there.
I'm very active on my Facebook page, Abby DeVera, if you guys want to look me up. And so I've definitely been keeping the audience there and the community there posted with the coming out of this book. I'm very excited. So I'm just going to blast it. I'm going to tell the whole world, Twitter, Instagram, that this is this amazing book that's coming out. And I literally edited it 50 times, so hopefully it's worth a good read. I'm thrilled about it.
Great, Abby. We'll take it easy out there in Tulsa. And you take it easy for just a few while we pause for a very short commercial break. The Page Publishing Book Club returns right after this.
Attention all authors. Page Publishing is looking for authors. Have you written a book and want to get it published? Page Publishing will get your book into bookstores and for sale online at Amazon, Apple iTunes, and other outlets. They handle all aspects of the publishing process for you. Printing, cover art, publicity, copyright, and editing. Call 800-204-6099 now for your free author submission kit. That's 800-204-6099 for your free author submission kit.
Welcome back to the Page Publishing Book Club. I'm your host, Alice Stockton Rossini. Peter Hussey worked as a radiation safety technician, so he's very familiar with the concept of contamination and control. Then he did some research on chemical weapons and conceived the plot for his book entitled The Winds of Will. Peter.
Well, the basic story is that a brilliant Chinese scientist, who's also a secret communist Chinese spy, is studying here in America at a prestigious medical university. And he discovers that in a nearby state, there's an estranged father and son. The father is about to retire from the U.S. Army's Chemical Corps, whom I've actually dedicated the book to in part, by the way. And his son, his estranged son by a bad marriage, is studying at a local university, working for his PhD in insects, and in particular hive insect, Hymenoptera and stuff like termites, bees, and ants. And he thinks he can get these two Americans somehow to this very secret location in the outer Mongolian desert of China, where he will have them work towards a weapon to make a mass mind control weapon. Instead of a weapon of mass destruction per se, it would be a way to literally control masses of people. The message mostly being that I wanted to write a plausible sci-fi. We do need to be scary and aware of what clandestine activities are going on all the time in our superpower nations, and in particular in the bowels of military projects, where you always wonder what kind of research is going on, and what's going to be done to possibly enslave people or reduce their freedoms.
I mean, it's really funny. When I was reading your blurb, I thought, wow, this book couldn't come at a better time.
Yeah, it's some very current events.
Is North Korea going to like start some, nuclear issues here?
And they possess chemical weapons as well, and they've also been some talk that they probably have done biological research too. So, never know. We never know what South Korea in particular is in danger of with any activities. My big thing is to try to bring plausibility into science fiction. I've been very dismayed to see how much fantasy is overlapping. If you go into any of the major big bookstores, you'll see that the sections are being even melded together, the fantasy and sci-fi. And I long for the old days when you had a lot of the thought-provoking, scary sci-fi plots that we used to see in great movies and great books out of the 60s, 70s, and 80s.
So what's your plan now?
I pretty much looks like I'm going to attempt book signings. I would very much like if I could get this in the hands of a particular actor. Of course, of the great actor Vincent D'Onofrio.
Yes.
Plays Detective Gorin on the Law and Order series. He's also a director. I would be very thrilled if a copy of it got into his hands and he looked it over to see if it had any validity as a movie or something. But I am going to try to promote it any way I can.
Vincent D'Onofrio, are you listening? All right, Peter, thank you. A counselor for 30 years, a parent, grandparent, and great-grandparent, Daniel Tadeo believes he has a roadmap for life, and he helps us pave the way with his book entitled I Believe, the subtitle, a unique selection of suggested actions for living life. Daniel.
One of the biggest decisions we make in life is choosing a spouse and then having children, and nobody really teaches us about this. We learned some from parents, but we go to school for 16 years for our job, and nobody teaches us how to be a parent or how to be a good spouse, and this is what this book is about.
Can you give me an example of something I might find in the book?
Read the one about attitude.
Okay, I'll just read a few of them. A cloudy day is no match for a sunny disposition. A positive approach succeeds more than any other approach. A trouble shared is a trouble halved. A word of encouragement to a hurting friend can come like a refreshing rain. An attitude of gratitude benefits everyone. Anyone in need is our neighbor.
Okay, don't read the whole book to her. There's topics and then statements. A few of them are mine, a few of them, probably the majority of them are things that I've read and kept track of, and kind of words of wisdom. And let's read some of the topics there.
Okay, some of the topics other than America and attitude, behavior, Bible, blessings, character, Christianity, friendship, government, gratitude. I'm just flipping through hope, judgment, kindness, patience.
And then there are statements under each of these categories.
All right.
We have sent out thousands of letters to churches worldwide. And then on the other side of it is an article that has appeared in one of the local papers. But there is something there for everybody: teachers, parents, ministers, grandparents. There's almost every topic of life is covered in one form or another. And I think that our culture seems to be drifting in a negative direction. And I hope that this will, combat that or at least slow it down.
And then he agrees with Abraham Lincoln, and that's on the back cover of the book, that says that we are not bound to win, we are bound to be true. We are not bound to succeed, but we are bound to live up to what light we have. We must stand with those that stand right, stand with those while they are right, and part with those when they go wrong.
That says it much better than I can say it.
Yep, Abe Lincoln sure had a way with words. Daniel, say thanks to your helper for me. Father Richard Paul Lacourt is a Roman Catholic priest. He finished a novel in 1979, decided it was time to redo it, and then added some poetry. and in the year of grace and the enclosed garden was born. Welcome, Father.
The poetry is actually religious poetry. The novel is set in the late 17th century, 1675 to 1715. It's set in France, and it's a story about a young man who begins his life very devoutly and then falls away, and then he has basically a conversion back to the faith. What I did was, Alice, long ago in the 19th century, the person who wrote under the pen name Stendhal wrote a book that was popular at the time called Le Rouge et le Noir, the red and the black. And it tells the story of a fellow who starts out pretty well. He's a seminarian, I think, and as I remember, and then he falls away from the faith. And I had a very vivid dream one morning in 1978, and I woke up in the middle of the night and could not get back to sleep. And what happened was, in my dream, I had written either a novel or a play which would try to undo what Stendhal's novel did. So instead of going from good to bad, the idea was that I had penned something dealing with someone who actually goes from bad to good. And that was the idea behind that. This was the first that involved a little bit of extensive writing. The novel is short. I don't think it's even 100 pages. And I had friends and people read it. And one particular person years ago liked it. In fact, she herself had been for a while a professor at Georgetown University. She said that she thought I should give it to somebody to translate it into French and publish it over there. But anyway, I just thought, I've been sitting on this thing for a long time, and so last year I decided, let's see if I can resurrect it and do something a little bit with it. And then I saw the ad on television for Page Publishers last year, and that's where I got things started with you.
So many people will say that to me. I was just watching television and this ad came up, or I was just listening to the radio and this ad came up. And that's when I decided, that book I'd been sitting on for 15 years or 50 years or 5 years, I finally decided to get that done. So good for you, Father.
Thank you, Allison.
Okay, now it's your turn. Got a book hiding in the bottom of your closet, the back of your car, Rob? I know there's something there. Get it out, rewrite it, send it in. Or maybe that book is still in your imagination. It's spring. Weed it out. And we'll see you next time on the Page Publishing Book Club, on air or online on 710 WOR. Have a great weekend.